Hey, what's up guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist, and today I'm doing a Silent Swordsman Phantom Knight test hand video. So I'm really excited for this one because this deck is actually a Patreon request deck that I'm going to be doing for its tone. They actually requested this deck to be based around Silent Swordsman, and I kind of got talking to them and I was like, you know what? You can't really do just pure Silent Swordsman because that's kind of weird, but there's this really cool card that's just called Silent Swordsman that can actually be incorporated into a lot of warrior decks. And they said, go for it. Have fun with it. Enjoy how you want to build it. And I was like, can I use Phantom Knights? And they were like, yes, use Phantom Knights. And so I was like, bet, let's do this. So this is what I came up with for the deck profile and the test hand request. So I hope you guys do enjoy it and give its tone some love down in the comments because they're an awesome person that's been a Patreon for I believe like 2 months now. And check out down in the description below because they are in the description below. And we have some awesome rewards for you guys over on the Patreon account if you guys want to check that out, which is getting your name in the description of every single video, getting a signed card sent in the mail, or even getting request deck profiles and test hands just like this every single month that you are a patron. So without further ado guys, let's get straight on into this test hand. So I'm really excited for this one because it's just a really weird deck. And yes, you did just see a Sandgen go by. I have some really cool tech cards in this deck. And I really quickly want to show you guys something that's really neat about this deck. There's a really cool card in the deck called Chaos Space that you can actually use to search out your Silent Swordsman, which we'll get into in just a minute. But basically what this does is your entire Phantom Knight archetype is dark. So you can actually use the Phantom Knights to discard for the cost of your Chaos Space. Because Chaos Space reads, you send a light or dark monster from your deck, your hand to the graveyard. Then you get to add a light or dark monster that cannot be normal summoned or set with the same attribute as that monster, or with a different attribute than that monster, which is what's really cool about this because the Phantom Knights are completely dark. And then the copy of Silent Swordsman cannot be normal summoned or set. It has to be special summoned by its own effect. So you essentially are playing 8 copies of your Silent Swordsman because you have searches off of the Sandgen, you have 3 of these, you have Rhoda, and then you have 3 of the Silent Swordsmans itself. So you have 9 ways or 8 ways to get to your copy of Silent Swordsman, which is what's really cool about the deck. So it's very consistent to get to Silent Swordsman. So let's go ahead and shuffle this bad boy up and see what we can get out of it. I'm really excited for this because I've been playing with this actually a lot recently because I've actually been super enjoying playing with this deck because I wanted to build a Silent Swordsman deck because I thought it was a super cool card because I love Silent Magician, but I never really touched Silent Swordsman. I really wanted to go for the Silent Magician because I thought she had a really good effect. And so I just kind of played around with her instead of playing around with Silent Swordsman. Go figure. But let's go ahead and pile shuffle this up really quick and see what we can actually get for a test hand. It's a really fun deck to play around with, and the really cool thing about this is I'm actually going to tell you guys as we go what you can drop for the new Phantom Knight support that's coming in Chaos Rage. You can actually drop, I'm playing 2 tour guides in here, and we're playing a Sandgen. You can actually drop that for the new Phantom Knight monster that's coming out that's going to be a main deck monster that's a level 3. That's really the only thing I would change with this deck to go in for Phantom Rage. So let's go ahead and shuffle it up and see what we can get. So we're going to go ahead and draw and get a copy of Fogblade, Chaos Space, Call by the Grave, Fogblade, and Rank Up Magic Launch. So if we draw and we're going second, we're going to get another Fogblade. Well, they're not going to attack us or get any monster effects. That's the relief. So this is not, you know, I wouldn't really consider this a brick because you have the 3 Fogblades that you can stall your opponent out with if you need the 3 Fogblades, and you have the copy of Call by the Grave to stop if they're going to do a hand trap. If they pass and they don't do much, you can draw and get your copy of the Gloves, which then you can normal summon out, which is not going to get you that much. So I would consider that probably a brick. Let's go with that was a brick and go ahead and shuffle the deck up again. That wasn't that great for a starting hand, but you did get all 3 Fogblades, which is kind of weird. We play a lot of monsters in this deck, so it shouldn't be that big of a deal to draw 2 level 3s, so you can start comboing off. So let's go ahead and shuffle this up and see what we can get. So, for our next hand, we're going to draw into Booties. We're going to get our copy of Mist Claws. We're going to get the Launch, Fogblade, and another Fogblade, and then draw for turn and get a Wheelater. So that's not bad at all, actually. We have plenty of plays that we can actually go off with this. So you can instantly go ahead and normal summon out your copy of Boots, special summon out your copy of Wheelater. You have 2 negates in hand, and you have the Mist Claws in hand. You could link these 2 away, which is what I would probably do, and go directly in for a Cherubini. which is really a good card to play in this deck. Cherubini will trigger and send a level 3 monster from your deck to the graveyard, which can be your copy of your Ancient Cloak. When you send Ancient Cloak to the graveyard, you now have 2 searches in the graveyard, which is your copy of your boots and your cloak. Now, the thing about cloak is this. You have to remember it's kind of worded weirdly. What its effect is that you can banish from the graveyard and then add the Phantom Knights card. So you can't add anything that's not a Phantom Knight. That's just Phantom Knight. You have to add the Phantom Knights. However, Boots does not have that effect. So we're going to go ahead and use the Boots first. And go ahead and add from deck to hand our copy of, you could add, we don't have anything else we can special summon. So I probably wouldn't add a copy of the Bardige from deck to hand. I probably would go for something else. I probably would add from deck to hand maybe a copy of the Ancient Cloak to get me another play next turn. And then you also have your copy of your Ancient Cloak, which you can use Ancient Cloak at this point to search the copy of the Silent Boots, since we already have the copies of our, or actually you can't search the Ancient Cloak. You have to search a spell or trap, excuse me. I probably would search a copy of, let's go ahead and add the copy of Fogblade. If you add Fogblade from deck to hand, you can have that third Fogblade. It was coming anyways, as you saw. But the Fogblade will help out in the deck too, because you have all those negations now, so you can set your 4 and pass against your opponent. Always play against Mech Knights. Don't set in the same zone. So you have essentially 3 negates, and you have your copy of your Mist Claws as well. If your opponent attacks directly into you, you can target one of your banished Phantom Knights and put it back in the graveyard, which is what's really cool about this card. And then you can banish this card from your graveyard when your opponent attacks directly, and then put it back on the field, and then put your copy of your other Phantom Knight on your field, which is what's really cool. To be able to special summon it from the graveyard, and if you do special summon this card as no monster with the same level as that monster. So I could overlay these two to make a level 3 play, and then during my opponent's turn, during my turn, I could actually overlay both of these if I got to keep them, and then go for a copy of my Break Sword, pop a card on my opponent's side of the field like this, and then if I activated any of my copies, which you're probably going to activate all 3 of your Fog Blades, you can pop a Fog Blade on your side of the field, and then pop a card on your opponent's side of the field, and since we have the Rank Up Magic launch, you can use the launch on your opponent's turn and go into Ophion to be able to make it so they can't special summon anything that's level 5 or higher. You also have your copy of your Silent Boots in your hand that you can special summon to your side of the field, and you can banish from your graveyard your Ancient Cloak as well, and you have your Cherubini if it lives, which it probably wouldn't, so we're going to go ahead and send it to the graveyard. Well, it might actually. If you have Cherubini, it might with all this negation. Let's go ahead and search the deck, because you're going to get a search off of your copy of Ancient Cloak that you banished from the graveyard to grab a copy of the Phantom Knights of Ragged Gloves, which is going to get you another play, which is super, super, super helpful. Go ahead and normal summon these two out, overlay them together, and go ahead and make in your extra deck, pick a monster that you want to go into. Keep in mind you don't have any cards in your hand, or you can link these away and go directly in for a copy of Boral Sword to be able to help OTK your opponent, and you've already have something to pop against your opponent, and you have the Rank Up Magic launch that can get you another play. Or you can do this and make it even simpler, leave this on the field, have this, overlay these two, and then summon another Break Sword to your side of the field, and then go off from there. Because you had the Break Sword, you can detach a material, pop another one of your Fog Blades on your side of the field, which I'd probably detach Boots instead, because you're going to be able to banish Boots for a search. Go ahead and overlay these two. You get an additional pop, which is super cool, and you get the ability to set this, or you can pop this instead of your copy of your other monster, and this will trigger special summoning 2 Phantom Knights from your graveyard as level 4s, which then you can overlay these two to summon out your copy of Dark Rebellion, and then Dark Rebellion can trigger targeting an opponent's monster. You can detach these materials, or you can activate your copy of the Rank Up Magic launch and summon the beautiful Requiem Dragon with this on your side of the field, which is what's really cool. And then you have also banishes in the graveyard that you can use, like your copy of your Fog Blade, which then can get you another Break Sword onto your side of the field, which will be pretty helpful to be able to get you additional plays, and this negates, which is going to help out quite a lot. So Let's go ahead and do another test hand and see if we can get our Silent Swordsman out this time. Because we have a lot of ways that we can actually get into Silent Swordsman, but apparently Fogblade is really liking us today. So we're going to do this, actually. I will recommend to you guys, if you ever are breaking, do that. Put them in different places in the deck so you guys don't draw into them. I'm not really bricking in this deck, but it's something that can happen when you're playing Phantom Knights, and it's not bad, actually. If you draw 3 copies of your Fog Blades, and then you have 2 Phantom Knights in your hand, it's really, really good, actually. Let's go ahead and shuffle this up and see what we can get. So we're going to go ahead and cut the deck, hopefully not get another 3 Fog Blades. Ancient Cloak, Tour Guide, Wheelater, Silent Swordsman level 7, and a Rank Up Magic launch. That Rank Up Magic launch is really loving this. If we're going second, we're going to draw into a copy of Call by the Grave. If we're going first, we're not going to draw into the Call by the Grave, but we're going to show you guys going first, because you actually have a really cool combo here, that you can normal summon out your copy of your Tour Guide of the Underworld, and special summon out your copy of Wheelater, and then once you do, no, I'm not going to synchro summon with these two. You can actually go ahead and special summon out your Sangan from the deck, because the Tour Guide will special summon out Sangan. The Sangan will trigger when it's in the graveyard and has the following effect now that it has an errata. It has an errata that says, if this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you can add 1 monster with 1500 or less attack from your deck to your hand, but you cannot activate cards or effects or cards with that card's name for the rest of the turn. But we're not going to activate it, we're going to summon it. So, you can link these away if you want to link these away, and go ahead and go into a copy of Cherubini, and then your copy of your copy of Sangan will trigger, letting you add from deck to hand your Silent Swordsman. Then you also have the ability that you can use the Cherubini to send from deck to graveyard a copy of your Boots to be able to add Fogblade to get you an additional negation, and you could even keep the Wheelater in your hand if you want to, and end with a board like this. Now when you go into your opponent's turn, and you're probably going to get a little bit of damage, and you're going to have the copy of Fogblade, but fear not, Flex Tape will be able to fix it. So let's go ahead and draw for turn, and we're going to draw into a copy of our Chaos Space. Now Chaos Space is really good in this particular hand. You forgot to banish that guy. So go ahead and normal summon out your copy of your Ancient Cloaks, and then you can special summon out your copy of Wheelater. This is probably going to be in the graveyard now. And then you can do something really neat where you actually tribute your copy of your Ancient Cloak and special summon out your copy of Silent Swordsman. Now this is going to give you a 300 or 500 boost during every standby phase, and it can negate a spell every single turn, which is what's really cool about this particular deck. So you did actually establish the Silent Swordsman, so let's go ahead and see what we can do in another test hand. I'm going to really quickly double pile shuffle this deck because it's not quite giving me Silent Swordsman or Chaos Space, so I'm wondering if they're kind of stuck together. So let's go ahead and do a quick pile shuffle and see what we can actually pull off. So this is a really cool deck to actually play around with because you have so many different advantages that you can get off, and the deck is only going to get better after Chaos or Phantom Rage comes out, because you're going to get the Raiders Knight, you're going to get the new copy of the Dark Rebellion, you're going to get some really, really good, awesome support for Phantom Knights, and you can still keep Silent Swordsman in here as a tech 3 of, even if you drop Chaos Space out of the deck. And you're also going to get AA Zeus, which is going to be nuts. That card is going to be crazy good. It's going to be, I don't think it's going to be the next $60 card, if that's Silent Swordsman. No, it's Radulus. If that was Silent Swordsman, I was going to be like, oh, we do it. Okay, so let's go ahead and see what we can actually pull off in this deck. Go ahead and cut it. Draw, Boots, Silent Swordsman, there he is, Fogblade, a copy of Call by the Grave, and Ragged Gloves. Okay, if we're going first, you have a lot of ways that you can actually play this hand. So go ahead and normal summon out the Ragged Gloves, special summon out the Boots, tribute the Boots, special summon out the Swordsman, banish the Swordsman, and then immediately, you could actually keep this in your hand if you want, because you're not really going to need it. Go ahead and use the copy of Boots to search a copy of Fogblade, is what I would probably search always off of this if you don't already have Fogblade, which you do have a Fogblade, but it would still probably be best to actually grab it. You have the copy of your Call by the Grave that can stop your opponent if they try and stop that with an Ash. Set these two. You have 2 negates and a spell negate as well. So you have 3 negates on board. You pass for turn. You draw on the next turn. You draw into your copy of your sword. You have both of these that you can negate. If you keep this on the field, then you're going to get 2, you're going to get 2,000 attack. If it does get destroyed, though, you instantly get to special summon from your deck a copy of Silent Swordsman level 7, which is going to negate every single spell that is on the field. Every spell is negated. That's why I don't play any spells, like not that many spells in this deck, is because of that. So this is going to be super helpful because you have 2 negates, and then this is completely, you're basically locking down monster effects with these, and you have this on the field to be able to stop your opponent from any spells. And it's going to hurt them a lot more than it's going to hurt us. You can then attack with this if you want to, because usually these are going to be dead because your opponent's going to use them for materials to summon a link monster if they have the fog blades on the field. And then you can attack with this. And then you can also activate this on your side of the field and target a monster on the field and increase its attack by 800, which would put this at 36. You draw on your next turn, normal summon the Tour Guide. Tour Guide will trigger special summoning Sangan, which the Sangan will be right here. Special summon out that Sangan to your side of the field. Overlay both of the Sangans on your field. Or not both the Sangans, but the Tour Guide and the Sangan. And I would probably go in for a Dante, because we don't have that many cards in the graveyard, in attack position, and then use its effect to mill 3 off the top of the deck, which I'm going to shuffle really quick, the deck. And then you're going to send the top 3 right here, which is going to be the Chaos Base, the Rusty Bardige, or not the Rusty Bardige, but Shade Brigadine, and those 3 are going to go to the graveyard, and then you're going to actually get the Sangan effect to add a monster from deck to hand, which could be something along the lines of a Boots, which you can't special summon, which is going to kind of suck, but you can't special summon it this turn. And then you also have in the graveyard the copy of the other Silent Swordsman, which is kind of nice. And then that's pretty much it for that test hand. You got some pretty good board establishment with this, which is not bad at all. And I really like the way that the deck plays. Something I might also consider throwing in here is, go figure, 3 Dark Armed Dragons. If you didn't want to play the Silent Swordsman, which I totally recommend that you play the Silent Swordsman, you could change it out for 3 Dark Armed Dragons, and you could change out the Junk Forwards for something else as well, that like Kagamusha Knight, and it might make the deck a little bit crazier. So let's go ahead and draw. So we're going to draw into a copy of Silent Swordsman right off the bat. See, all we need to do is pile shuffle. Ash Blossom for an additional gate, Called by the Grave, Sword, and a copy of Brigadine, which is going to be really easy to tribute this to summon out your copy of Silent Swordsman. So we're going to go ahead and let's go first. Set this, activate it, tribute it, special summon. You have this in hand that you can discard for a negation. Set 2, pass, gains 500, and then if you want to hold it, put it in defense position, let your opponent destroy it, and they won't probably, if they haven't played against this deck before, they're not going to realize that you get the copy of level 7 on your side of the field. Boost that level 7, but before they destroy it, go ahead and banish something in the graveyard, and then now every spell is negated and it's at 36. Now, if you're going to go into your turn again, go ahead and draw. You have the copy of Ancient Cloak. I probably hold on to it, attack him for 36. Pass again, Sangan. Probably normal summon out the Sangan. Swing. I might have set this on my side of the field. Swing for this, flip it, overlay them, go into Dante, mill 3, and then you're going to hit a copy of your Ragged Gloves in the graveyard as well, which is not going to do all that much. It's just going to let you banish from the graveyard and send a Phantom Knight monster, or Phantom Knight card from your deck to the graveyard, which can be a copy of any of your Phantom Knights monsters or your any of your Phantom Knight cards, which is going to be pretty helpful to be able to do. I would probably send a copy of Fog Blade so I can get an additional revival when I special summon back the copy of my Cloak, which is going to help out quite a lot, because then I can banish the copy of this to special summon back the Cloak. And then you also have the ability that you can link these 2 away if you want to link them away for a Cherubini and go in for more plays if you want to go a little bit deeper. So you're establishing the Silent Swordsman level 7 pretty easily, and that's what's really cool about the deck. And yes, I had the purple foiling. Actually, I was placing an order on TCG and actually saw that, and it was like, you know what? I need to make $5 so I can get my order up. So let me just go ahead and get that. So I'm really proud that I actually got a hold of that, because it's really a good card. So let's go ahead and do one more test hand and see what we can actually do with this deck. I really wish we had Rusty Bardige back at 1. That'd be really cool to have Rusty Bardige and make the deck combo so much crazier. But let's go ahead and see what we can pull off. So we're going to go ahead and draw in a Fog Blade, a copy of Called by the Grave, Mist Claws, Tour Guide, and a copy of Chaos Space, which was on the top. And we're going to go ahead and go in. So I would go ahead and normal summon out the Tour Guide. use the Tour Guide's effect to be able to special summon out our copy of Sangan from the deck, which is going to be right here. The Sangan will then search once you hit it from the graveyard or send it to the grave. You have the Call by the Grave as well. Make the Dante, use the effect of Sangan to detach, shuffle that deck really quick, send the top 3 off the deck, which is going to be, unfortunately, one of our Silent Swordsmen. We did hit 2 of our Phantom Knights, which is what's cool. The copy of your Sangan will trigger, and I believe you can still normal summon it. I don't think you can do anything else with it. But you cannot activate cards or effects with that same name for the rest of the turn. I probably would search a copy, since I have Boots in the graveyard, I probably would search my Cloak. And then I can use the Cloak to actually trigger an effect, which is what's really cool about this. I can actually use the Cloak with Chaos Space, discard the copy of Cloak to the graveyard. You can't activate its effect, but you can still send it to the graveyard, search my copy of Silent Swordsman to my hand, and then from the graveyard, you have all these cards that you can use to banish this from the graveyard and banish this from the graveyard. We're going to go ahead and use that first to search from deck to hand a copy of... We don't have any traps, so you can actually search a copy of your Shade Brigandine, and then you can use this to banish and grab a copy of the Fogblade, which is going to be super helpful to send to the graveyard. And then you have another revival that you can do if you want to bring this back. But you can just set this, activate this, special summon this, set 2, and pass. And you've established a negate, and you get a copy. If they attack into you, you can target one of your Phantom Knights that's banished, put it back in the graveyard. You have a spell negate, and you have this negate that's face down too. So it's a really fun deck. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. It's a really fun deck to play around with. I highly recommend that you guys, if you're not trying Silent Swordsman in your Phantom Knights, you should, because it's really fun to play around with, and it's a really amazing card to actually test out in a Phantom Knight deck, because it's super fun to be able to do. You could actually, if you wanted to go full on Silent Swordsman in the deck, you could potentially throw in 3 copies of Level Up, go for 3 copies of Allure, and then play the original Silent Swordsman level 5 and level 3 to level them up into your other copies, which would be pretty cool. But I feel like this is the way, if you're going to play Silent Swordsman in this deck, this is the way to do it with just a small engine. So that's it for the deck, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell next so you can come part of notification squad, and definitely tell me what you think of this deck down in the comments down below. It's a really fun deck, and don't forget to give its tone some love down in the comments as well, because this was actually a Patreon request. And if you guys want to get your own Patreon request, the Patreon link is down in the description if you guys want to check that out. And we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.